Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and I was always told how to voice the radio. So today, we need to talk about a card that we knew was coming, and now we've gone and got confirmation. We are looking at Mimikyu VMAX, and we knew Mimikyu VMAX was coming, because when we got the blurb for Brilliant Stars, we were specifically told that Mimikyu VMAX is going to be in Brilliant Stars. So we were literally told. And now we've gone and seen it. What is interesting, this is confirmed to now be coming in VMAX Climax. I thought it was going to be coming into 100 start decks, like we saw with King of VMAX. Not the case. VMAX Climax is a very strange set over in Japan, because it's largely a reprint set. And then it's got all of these lovely character rares, but then they're throwing in random things like Mimikyu V Union we looked at earlier today, and Mimikyu VMAX, but it doesn't look like there's a new Pokemon V, more on that in a moment, and it's all a little bit all over the place. The thing that does need to be borne in mind, we have had actual official confirmation this card is going to be in Brilliant Stars, yay, etc. So, there's no new Pokemon V? No, there isn't. And that's a little bit weird. On the website, they have gone and shown us a reprint of Mimikyu V with the new set symbol, i.e. it is definitely going to have a reprint in this set. And the fact that they've shown us that we're going to be getting a reprint of the one that came around in Battle Styles, and the fact that they've revealed the VMAX without revealing the V as well, I'm not saying we're not getting a new Mimikyu V, but I am saying at this stage it looks very, very unlikely that we'll be getting a new Mimikyu V, which is weird, because up till now, every time we have had a Pokemon VMAX for a Pokemon that had previously had a Pokemon V, we'd always gotten a second Pokemon V to go along with it. So, for instance, we got Victini in Sword and Shield, and then we got Victini VMAX in Battle Styles, and it came with a new Pokemon V. And we've seen that a few other times as well. That has been a little bit of a rule. Well, that rule appears to be being broken. Doesn't look like we're getting a new Mimikyu V. It looks like we are just getting a new Mimikyu VMAX. So with all of that borne in mind, what does a new one do? Obviously, our translation comes from the lovely Antoine Boulet. We've got 300 HP, which incidentally is actually really low for a VMAX. It's as low as you get. I do like the retreat cost of 1 being low, and I do like the resistance to fighting. Weakness to darkness, not ideal. There's a bunch of darkness stuff around. But what we've got, for 2 energy, you place 4 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way that you like. It's not very much for a VMAX, I'm not very excited. If, however, you played Acerola's Intuition from your hand this turn, place 13 damage counters instead. Oh, well, that's very, very, very different, ladies and gentlemen. That is very, very different indeed. And look, we'll get to Acerola's Intuition in a moment. Obviously, we have to put that in the same video. It would be weird if we didn't. But I think at this stage, it is absolutely fair to assume that this is going to be a card you play with Acerola's Intuition. The thing is, that is not the only great card we've seen lately, and you're going to be hearing this a lot, incidentally, in a bunch of videos, and I am unapologetic about it. But the other day, we saw Double Turbo Energy. And Double Turbo Energy is a new double energy that means you do 20 less damage with attacks. But it can be attached to any Pokemon. The big difference here, however, is that this doesn't do any damage to begin with. So you're not doing 20 less damage. To be clear, it's long been established, it is absolutely 100% definitely a thing, that damage and damage counters are different. That is definitely a thing. So what that means is, you still get to drop 13 damage counters. There is no, well, it's only 11 or any of that garbage. It is absolutely, definitely a thing. So you can just whack these on there, and then you're good to go. And that is absolutely amazing. You don't have to use it with this, and this doesn't have to be in a psychic deck or anything. It's 2 colorless energy. I obviously think the double turbo energy is nuts, but it's going to be used with any energy acceleration whatsoever, and that's pretty gosh darned amazing. It's definitely the best thing about the card. The other attack, 2 Psychic Energy, 120, discard a random card from your opponent's hand. It's not terrible. I mean, bearing in mind, we've got Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX that attaches a Psychic Energy from your hand to one of your bench Psychic Pokemon, draws you 2 cards. So getting that second energy on there to get this rolling in 1 turn is really not difficult, which is lovely. And I do like the way you get to discard a card from your opponent's hand. It's decent disruption. It's not great, but for instance, if you ever see your opponent sitting there with a 1-card hand, or if your opponent has been drawing really badly for a couple of turns, but then they've picked up a prize or something like that, i.e. they might have 1 good card in their hand, this is going to be a fun little trick. I don't think this is really an attack to rely on, but I do think it's a nice little bonus with some disruption. And obviously, if you're into hand disruption decks, if you can get your opponent down to a 1-card hand, etc., clearly this is a bit of a game changer. But it is that first attack which is amazing. Dropping 13 damage counters is absolutely nuts. And of course, you don't have to play this with Inteleon, but we've seen how amazing Inteleon is, and we've seen that everyone that wants to spread or drop damage is playing it with Inteleon. I think it's fair to assume we are going to be playing this with Inteleon. And the great news is that you really can play this in like any deck. As long as you're playing some energy you can use, especially double turbo or some kind of energy acceleration, this just becomes a really nice option. And now it's not 13 damage counters, it's 15, it's 17, whatever. I mean, if your opponent is playing a setup deck, some kind of evolving deck, they are going to be having 60 or 70 HP Pokemon. Like, for instance, the Sobble from Chilling Reign, which is generally the best one to use with Inteleon, because it can get more Sobble out, or any Rapid Strike Pokemon, but it's only got 60 HP. Here, you can take out a 60 HP and a 70 HP Pokemon for 2 prizes in one go, and it's not that difficult. Turn 1, you play Mimikyu and attach an energy. Turn 2, you VMAX and attach a second energy, play Acerola Intuition, and if you've gone first, your opponent cannot have evolved at this point. And if they're playing an evolution deck and you get this rolling turn 2, and again, we're talking, 1 evolution, 2 energy, and a supporter, it is not a ridiculous combo, all of a sudden, your opponent is sitting there literally unable to keep their basic Pokemon on the bench because you are just wrecking them before they can evolve. Against setup decks, if you get going quickly, they need to bench 3 Pokemon in the hope of keeping 1 the following turn and going down 2 prizes. This is an absolute game wrecker if you get it rolling fast enough against the right deck. But what does Acerola's Intuition do, and is this going to ruin the plan? Well, it is a supporter card whereby your opponent reveals their hand, and then draw a card for each trainer card you find there. It's not perfect. And if your opponent knows you're relying on Acerola's Intuition, and let's be clear, if they see you're playing Mimikyu VMAX, they're going to know you're relying on Acerola's Intuition, they will just be able to play around it. They will be playing item cards a little bit faster than they generally would, attaching tools they might have saved till later, discarding cards with Quick Ball that they're not going to play now, etc., etc., making sure that they are getting their hand as devoid of trainers as they can. It's like when you're playing against a Poltergeist deck, shout out to Chandelier VMAX because Chandelier VMAX is amazing, you're going to empty your hand out of trainers so that your opponent does less damage. Well, that's what you can do here. Empty your hand of trainers so that your opponent is not actually able to draw a whole bunch of cards. Then your opponent has a choice between either using the amazing attack on Mimikyu or using a supporter card that actually draws a decent amount of cards, because Acerola's Intuition ain't gonna do it. And that is, shall we say, not entirely ideal. But you know what? This is still cool, ladies and gentlemen. This is very, very cool indeed. If you can get this drawing a bunch of cards, it's a no-brainer. Dropping 13 damage counters is not always amazing, but if you've got a Pokemon draw engine, if you can draw cards with Pokemon, You can sit there using Acerola's intuition turn after turn. And I should mention at this stage, don't forget, we had that Altaria released in Evolving Skies that does let you once per turn search for a supporter card and leave it on top of your deck. So you can be playing that Altaria to guarantee that you do find this when you need it, which is a pretty gosh darned important thing. And then you're just sitting there dropping 13 damage counters, but like I've said, you are probably also going to be playing something like Inteleon to combo with it. I absolutely love this, ladies and gentlemen. This is awesome. We do need to remind ourselves quickly about Mimikyu V, however, because it's the only one we've got. The attack, 1 energy, drops 3 damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon for each prize card they've taken. It's fine, especially in the late game, because in the late game, this actually could be 15 damage counters, which is better than the other. You know, as soon as your opponent's taken 4 prizes, well, I would say switch to this one, but if they've taken 4 prizes, you really want them having a KO, a VMAX, not a V to win the game. You don't want to give them a 2-prize Pokemon when they've only got 2 prizes remaining. That's making their job easier. But it is at least an option. It fits with the theme of the deck. We've also got an ability, when you play it from your hand to your bench during your turn, prevent all damage done to it by attacks on your opponent's Pokemon until the end of your opponent's next turn. So what I love here is, like I said it at the time, it's not really good enough to be a deck in and of itself, but man, it's a good bonus. So turn 1, you start with something in the active, play Mimikyu V, retreat whatever's in the active, and all of a sudden, you're not losing Mimikyu V before you can VMAX. I said that you don't really want a 2-prize Pokemon in the active when your opponent's got 2 prizes remaining, but the turn you play it, you absolutely do. You can play it, drop 15 damage counters, or 12 if your opponent's taken 4 prizes, and then they can't KO you back. They've got to have some gusting. I love this, ladies and gentlemen. I don't love it on its own, but as a Pokemon to evolve into Mimikyu VMAX, I absolutely love it. I am giving this whole combo 4 wassies. I don't know if dropping 13 damage counters is always going to be enough. Sometimes you need an attack that's doing 220 damage. And similarly, I don't know if the Pokemon V is good enough, and I don't know if Acerola is always going to be a good enough draw engine. There are enough questions here to give me a little bit of pause for thought, but make no mistake about it, there is so much to love here, and I love all of it, ladies and gentlemen. This is brilliant. And it's coming in brilliant stars, so that works quite nicely. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to hear from you guys. I want to know what you think about Mimikyu VMAX. I want to know anything that you want to tell me, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.